Limit as x goes to negative 1 of x cubed plus 1 over x squared minus 5x minus 6. First thing we're going to do is try plugging in the negative 1 for all of the x's. In the numerator, that'll be negative 1 cubed plus 1. In the denominator, that'll be negative 1 squared minus 5 times a negative 1 minus 6. In the numerator, negative 1 cubed is negative 1 plus 1. In the denominator, negative 1 squared is a positive 1. Negative 5 times a negative 1 is a positive 5 minus 6. In the numerator, negative 1 plus 1 is a 0. In the denominator, 1 plus 5 is a 6 minus 6 is a 0. We have the 0 over 0 indeterminate form. Since these are power functions, we're going to attempt to rework it by the factor and cancel method. So we will have limit as x goes to negative 1 of, in the numerator, we want to try to factor what is a sum of cubes. And you can factor both a sum and a difference of cubes. And the way it works is like this. In here we will have two terms, and it'll be what's being cubed, x cubed, and what's being cubed here. That could be thought of as 1 cubed up there, and therefore that'll be a 1. And then you take and square this first term, and that goes in here. And you square the second term, and that'll go here, so that'll be a 1 there. And in the middle are going to be these two terms multiplying each other. So 1 times x, which is x. This is always a plus here. And here's the only thing you have to watch out for when you factor a cubic. It can be a sum or a difference of cubes. The sign here is what goes here. So that will be a plus sign right there. So this will be a plus, and this is always opposite sign here. That'll be a minus. All of that divided by trinomial factorization, x. We need two numbers that multiply to be a negative 6 and add to be a negative 5. It sounds like we would want a negative 6 and a positive 1 for that. And you can see now the x plus 1 in the numerator and denominator that is making the 0 over 0. It can now cancel, which should eliminate the 0 over 0 indeterminate form that was occurring. We can now retry plugging in negative 1. We will have negative 1 squared minus a negative 1 plus a 1 divided by negative 1 minus 6. In the numerator, negative 1 squared is a 1. Negative times a negative 1 is a positive 1. And then plus 1 in the denominator. Negative 1 minus 6 is a negative 7. And it looks like it is a negative 3 over 7.